Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I want to thank you for coming to another show of Natural is F. I want to start off by thanking life in all its many forms. But we do want to thank the ATR Media platform for allowing us to be here to bring this message of healing and health to you. We have some wonderful topics today that we're going to be talking about. I want you to hit like and share this information with as many people as you possibly can right now. Go to your button and hit share. Go to the ATR Black Media Facebook page, hit like, follow, and share, and go to us on YouTube, All Things Relevant Black Media, and follow and share that with individuals who you know may be suffering or just need to know the things that are relevant in our day and time. It's a lot going on in the world we know today, and one of the biggest things there is that people are suffering and dying through ignorance. And I say ignorance because they're just not knowing the best way to allow their bodies to heal, and the information that's being put out is keeping us ignorant. Is keeping us in a state where we don't realize or not aware of how to properly live, eat, drink, breathe, exercise, and different things that create health in us. So we dedicate this show to teaching the natural, holistic way to acquiring the education on how to restore your body back to full functioning power without the use of medicines, herbs, remedies, anything like that. So, with that being said, I'm not a medical doctor. So, everything that I'm going to be telling you is to change your lifestyle habit. I'm just a teacher at the end of the day, teaching you the right way and how to live, the right way in which to eat, the right way in which to drink, the way to exercise your life that you, first of all, don't ever have to suffer disease, or second, can restore your body back to full optimum performance. Now, all these things come with you being willing to take the responsibility, though. If you're not willing to take the responsibility for your health, oh man, that's what's wrong with most of the world today. We're not taking responsibility for our health. We want to put the responsibility on the doctors. We want to put it on the health community. We want to put it on the insurance companies. We're putting it on everybody except for us, and we're the one creating our health issues, provided it's not an environmental poisoning going on. All those manufacturing plants that's polluting our air and polluting our water, polluting our ground. They have a big, and all these manufacturing plants that's producing these unnatural substances that we're taking into our body. Those are environmental poisons and toxins. But at our own personal habits, the way we, lack of sleep, not getting fresh air, not drinking water, those are things that we're doing to ourselves. So it's like a form of suicide because we have control of what we eat. We have control of what we drink. We have control of when we sleep, if we exercise, if we go out and get sunlight. Those are things that we have control of. We can control our emotions. We can control the people that we're around, making sure that our people are loving and nurturing. But all this comes about when we are aware that this is what's necessary. See, a lot of people don't think that you know emotions play a part in why they're suffering the diseases that they're suffering from. The weakening of toxic people around them, toxic relationship. They don't know that their temperature plays a part in why they're suffering. They're unaware that exercise. Well, most people do understand that exercise can keep you healthy, but a lot of them don't know about just the quality of their air as they sit in these homes with air wicks, candles burning, incense burning, all these different so-called air pollutants in their home, and they're sealed tight in these little buildings. So they're producing a lot of sickness to themselves. But we're going to go into a lot of the topics that we have now because we got a lot of information to cover and have to explain some of it because it may sound somewhat scientific in some of our teachings here in the next couple of minutes here. So we're going to have to break down some of that science where we can make it make sense, because it, like in the Bible said, I have you not be ignorant. So we no longer want to be ignorant anymore. So we want to educate ourselves on what it is that can create health in us. What's first causing our sickness, which is our habits and our environmental condition. But when we as a people, mankind, as a collective, change our environment, change the habits, the way of life that we're living, we can create, nothing but health on this earth. We can erase and move from mankind all the sicknesses and diseases that plague man. But that's going to come when we stop being ignorant. When we stop, believing that medicines and herbs and remedies is what's going to keep us healthy. That just being honest, that's the ignorant state of being. Instead of believing that we can heal ourselves and knowing, that it takes for us to exercise. We have people who don't exercise at all and wondering why they're sick. Never want to get up and walk, never want to jog, never want to stretch, never want to lift a weight. All they want to do is lift a plate, lift the spoon, lift the fork, you know, run to the store. That's the only running they're going to do. And then they run into the store in their car. So here it is. They're never exercising what it takes to be healthy. And so when they start breaking down, you know, um, they reach for herbs, remedies, and cures. And this is a ignorant mentality because we go on and start suffering from chronic issues when we do such a thing. And a lot of the things that we're eating, a lot of people say, well, I used to could do this and I used to can do that. It's like our body tolerated abuse for quite a while. And it keeps on tolerating this abuse, but in the toleration, we're weakening our body. The more tolerable that we are to poisons and toxic behaviors, the weaker our body really become. I know we think that we're strong, that we can tolerate the toxic air. We can tolerate huge amounts of heat. We can tolerate poisons. We can tolerate more alcohol. We can tolerate more smoke. But with this toleration or this accommodation, we are actually weakening our bodies. Now, this is our first topic that we're going to be talking about which is the you know accommodation is necessary but not normal. All right. When I say it's not the normal activity of human activity, it's only normal under the conditions, in other words, but it's not the normal state. Normal state is for us to repel toxic substance. We supposed to abhor it. We supposed to have no tolerance for poison. But if poisons are constantly brought into us or brought around us, our body is going to use up all this energy trying to defend itself against this poison. And that defense is just to keep itself at the highest integrity that this organism can be. So at all times, the body is trying to keep itself at the highest integrity that it can possibly be. But as poisons keep coming to it, it's going to have to lend some of its integrity or die down some of its integrity to be able to tolerate this substance. It got to let this irritation or this poison come in, because if it doesn't, it's going to waste all its energy trying to stay on top. It's like it's wearing it out. You got like almost stop and come back and fight another day. So that's what the body have to do. It have to, you know, it works hard at the beginning to, you know, stand its ground. It's trying to stand its ground. When that poison first come, it violently let you know. It makes you cough. You know, you go to smoke for the first time, it makes you cough, but you know, violently. It causes you to have a headache. It gives you all the warning signs. Hey man, don't do this no more. And it fights it. It rebukes it and all type of other so-called rebellious activity towards these poisons. But if you continuously bring that poison or continuously smoke, eventually you notice that you can tolerate the smoking now. You can tolerate even smoking more. So this toleration is not normal, but it's necessary, because if the body constantly acted in a high state of action, you would quickly squander away all your energy and you would die off premature. So the body, to keep itself going at least a little longer, will tolerate the poisons, will tolerate the condition. So this toleration is not normal, but it's necessary to keep our body functioning. Now, in our hygienic literature, we read, and this is the hygienic program that we offer at Savannah Natural Health. But we read in here on one of the laws, which is the law of accommodation. It states that the response of the vital organism to external stimuli is an instinctive one, based upon a self-preservation instinct which adapts or accommodates to itself to whatever influence it cannot destroy or control. Now listen to what it just said. It states, the law of accommodation states that the response of a vital organism, we're a vital organism, and we respond to external stimuli. So if there's some type of stimulus or irritation or poison that comes to us, our body will respond to that stimuli. And it does so as an instinct of activity to defend itself. It's like a instinctive defense that is going to defend itself instinctively based upon a self-preservation. It's the number one law of all life is to preserve itself. So when something comes that can possibly destroy the organism instinctively defends itself, which adapts or accommodates itself to whatever influence it cannot destroy or control. Even when it cannot defend itself, will adapt itself and accommodate itself to the stimulus that it cannot destroy or either control. So if the body cannot destroy this irritation or this poison, if it cannot control it, it's going to tolerate it instead of sit there and just keep acting until you end up dying out from exhaustion. Now, this law explains to us how the body is able to survive the repeat onslaught of harmful substances such as coffee, tobacco, alcohol, and drugs of all kinds by gradually adaptation. Rather the total surrender, the body will respond with less violent action and will learn to tolerate the offending material. With the repeated use, the reaction to it from the body grows less and less until we are able to use the original amount without the instinctive response. The organism will use up its vital power quickly, resulting in death if it didn't. So you'll be able to use more without having the initial response that you got. You know, the first time you drank alcohol, man, you had the worst headache ever. You urinated all over yourself. You numbed out, and it was just a little bit. You didn't even have to drink that much. The original amount had you intoxicated like crazy. I mean, you suffer all the tortures of Danny's Inferno. Now, once you keep the act up, you notice that the body is going to not respond in that same manner every time. That's what we see in the addict. That's why they're chasing the high, because the body is never going to respond to that poison in the same manner. But that's the high that we're chasing. We're chasing that response again. Look at the use of alcohol. The first time use of it only requires a little to get us drunk, but the repeated use or abuse will eventually require more and more of the alcohol to achieve the same result of drunkenness. We are said to have built up a tolerance to the poison. The seasoned drinker may drink the newbie drinker under the table because the seasoned drinker body has learned how to tolerate the poison and not to act so violently to their presence in the body. This means that they have learned to live with the poisons as neighbors. Now look at that. The person who is able to drink more has no governor anymore. So to tolerate, meaning that you're losing your governor on how to, the amount of poison that's being allowed into your system has the threshold had to be taken up a little more where your body can tolerate more. Your body won't respond. But in doing so, now you get to drink more. That means you get to put more poison in your body. Now you see that this is not a favorable situation. The person who's only able to drink a little bit and start having these problems, then they're not going to dump a lot of poisons in their body that can eventually destroy their whole body. But the person who has no governor can sit there and overindulge because they're not going to have no response. The body is not going to have the response to tell it when to stop. So this person going to overindulge and going to get huge amounts of poison in their body, which can possibly cause their ODing. And this is how a lot of overdoses results. Now, when the body's tissues and organs are constantly coming into contact with any kind of poison or toxic substance, the lining of those organs and tissues harden and thicken as a protective measure. This protective measure should be understood as a regressive adaptation. This means that the cells are adapting to a disease state as it continues to lessen the body vitality. Hard tissues do not produce energy as sufficient as soft, fresh cells. As the cells harden to adapt to the abuse of the toxic stimulus, their share of the production of energy comes up short as required of them to produce. This means that the body will operate at a lower vitality. This means that you're entering disease. Now, this protective measure should be understood as a regressive adaptation. This adaptation is not favorable. It's a regressive. It's actually carrying you backwards to where you're actually going to suffer. It allows you to eat more. It allows you to take more of your toxic substance. It allows you to smoke more. But in doing so, it causes your breathing not to be as efficient. It causes your digestion to be suppressed. All the things that you're modifying or degenerating in your organs and tissues are now causing a regression in the activity of those organs and tissues. So those organs and tissues have to modify their behavior. They have to modify their functioning. They have to modify their structure to deal with the onslaught of the poison. Now, this modification, this alteration in activity and structure is a regressive one because now that organ can't perform its actions properly because it's not structured to do it no more. It's not functioning to do that anymore. Its functioning structure is to deal with the onslaught of your poisonous habits. So this adaptation is not favorable. Now it's necessary because if it don't, then you would die outright. But that adaptation that comes about over continued use is not normal. And that's how we go into suffering with our disease. Matter of fact, in orthobionomy, in orthobionomics, Dr. Shelton's book, we read about physical compensation. You know, looking at the body as a unit. And in here he reads that in chronic inflammation of the kidneys, there is a gradual degeneration and destruction of the functioning tissues of the kidneys. Their places are taken by connective tissue, which is not a functioning tissue, but is capable of living on much less food and under conditions in which the functioning tissue cannot continue to exist. So the body have to create tissues and cells and organs that are less consuming of energy, less consuming of nutrients when we're not eating the right nutrition, when we're destroying and keep destroying tissue over and over that the body can't keep up with the production of new material. It creates this scarring tissue or just connective tissue that really has no function. It's just there to hold things together. It serves merely to fill up the breach and patch up the hole. As the death of the kidney cells continue and the growth of scar tissue proceeds, the actual functioning tissues of the kidneys grows progressively less and less until there is but little left. And this is where we're seeing the kidney failure, over time. And the degeneration is failing because there's no cell or tissue connected to that kidney that has any power because it's nothing but scarring tissue. And we see the degeneration because there's no repairing going on. The kidneys may be reduced to about 1/5 their normal size. The cortex shrinks from 1/3 or to 1/6 its normal thickness, or even disappears entirely in places. Many of the glomerular and convoluted tubules are destroyed. I know I'm a little science here. That so small an amount of kidney tissue as remains can come so near to protecting the body proves conclusively that the normal kidneys are capable of doing many times the amount of work. So, in other words, what it's saying is, it takes the original kidney was over the amount that was needed. It's just like in your car. When you on the road, you only need to go 25, 35, 45, no more than 70 miles per hour. I think the highest speed limit on our streets today is 70. But if you look at most cars, on the dashboard, we got 125, 155, and some 195. On motorcycles, you might have 215 on the dash. Now, what do we need all that for when the speed limit is only, the highest speed limit is 70? Why do we have this extra amount of capability? And here it is: the kidneys have this excess. In our actions and normal habits and stuff like that. Even the habits of mankind, we don't need that much of a kidney that is being provided to us by nature. And so as we keep breaking it down and losing some of that ability, eventually it get to a point where we are going below the capability. We no longer have that compensation. We no longer have that overflow of energy, of vitality that can compensate for the continued bad habits. Patients in advanced stages of this disease may go for extended periods without any symptoms at all, thus showing that even the small amount of functioning tissue that remains would be capable of maintaining a fair degree of health if the patient learned to live properly. So that's even what I have some clients that we may be working with shortly, but I've worked with a lot of them who was having kidney failure and kidney issues and different things of that nature. Didn't have much of a organ or tissue there left, and once we taught them the ways of health and the study and to follow natural hygiene, the amount of tissue that they had left was able to sustain a normal lifetime, a normal life. So they didn't need to have a whole kidney, the whole complete kidney. Long as they had a piece of it there, that piece was enough to get them around. They didn't have to have the whole 180 on the dashboard. If they just had 55, because you can be on the highway, it can go at least 45, even on 70, on a 70-mile highway. If you're going 45, you still can be on the highway without getting a ticket. And you can still get to where you need to get to. So you just need it, but you might can't live like the person who got a 185 on the dashboard. You can't go out there drinking like crazy. You can't go out there eating like crazy because they can compensate for their bad habits. You can't compensate for that anymore. But if you're constantly trying to keep up the bad habits that produce your sickness, then you're going to quickly destroy what little left, organ tissue that you do have. So adaptation is necessary, but not normal. And it'd be ideal for us to change our way where we can allow repair work to go on, or at least keep at least a state where we don't, where we still able to ride on the highway, if that makes sense. Now, in our, hold on. We want to go into talking a different topic. I hope that that made a lot of sense with the adaptation, but we want to go in and start seeing about in our next topic of should we eat meat and bread together, and we should. And a lot of our meals today are meat and carb combination, and our stomach has adapted to the abuse. That's connecting from our last topic. But we noticed that eating meat and bread is not an ideal thing. I'm going to read something before we get into that topic all the way through Dr. Howell, Enzyme Nutrition. All right. On page 34, under the heading Digestive Enzymes, it reads, the two most potent digestive enzymes secreted by the human body are amylase and protease. These deal with the digestion of two classes of foodstuff, carbohydrates and proteins, respectively. Saliva supplies, that saliva in your mouth, supplies a high concentration of amylase, while stomach juice contains protease. The pancreas secretes digestive juices that contain both amylase and protease in high concentration, along with a third enzyme called lipase, which deals with the digestion of fats. Lipase, however, is present in a weaker concentration than amylase and protease. One other enzyme, maltase, which produces maltose to dextrose, is secreted to a lesser extent by the pancreas. Now, you see here, all off rip, the pancreas is a major organ or tissue that does a lot of work in digestion. Further along the digestive tract, intestinal enzymes continue work on the partially digested food. Even though only amylase and protease are found in high concentration in digestive juices, it would be incorrect to say that two enzymes do the majority of the work of digestion. This was failed to make account of food enzymes and some other enzymes present during digestion. Now, my thing is to show you that here it says that the two most, according, this is Dr. Howell, and he's a expert on enzyme nutrition. And he says that the two potent digestive enzymes secreted by the human body are amylase and protease. All right. And protease breaks down pepsin, which breaks down proteins in our body. But amylase is the enzyme that breaks down the actual carbs. It's the carbs or starch splitting enzyme. It splits and breaks down carbs into simple sugars. The protease breaks down proteins into amino acids. The body can't make use of carbs. It can't make use of proteins. It can only make use of those items once they have been broken down. That's what digestion means. Break down into usable substances. So digestion of raw materials into, or the breakdown of raw materials into simple materials or usable materials, is what we call digestion. Now, the thing about it is, this digestive tube that we have is remarkable in a sense because it actually does a lot of work of breaking and preparing nutrition for the cells and tissue. It's like the kitchen, preparing and preparing our food, and then the blood is the waiter that takes the food to the cells and tissues and distribute it to them, and then come back and pick up the dirty plates and take it to the elimination organs or the kitchen to be cleaned up and the trash to be thrown out and eliminated. This is power that the human body possesses. It's miraculous when you think about it. Now, it sounds real scientific, but if you listen to us, we can make it sound as normal as things around us, you know. But in food combining, we see that in Dr. Shelton, this is another great book that would be ideal for you to have in your library. But it's called Food Combining Made Easy by Dr. Shelton. And talk a little bit, if you notice that still Dr. Howell, before we go into that, but Dr. Howell was actually saying also that amylase is released in the mouth and protease is released in the stomach. The protease have to be in an acidic environment. It have to be an acid for it to form. It can only live in an acidic environment. So that's why it's produced in the lower part of the stomach where hydrochloric acid forms or is secreted from. Hydrochloric acid is secreted in the lower part of the stomach, and that's where the protease will have its activity. It can act in an acid environment. Amylase it cannot act in a acidic environment. It have to be in an alkaline environment, meaning weak. Acid is strong. So protease is only active in a strong environment with strong juices that break down rough stuff. Amylase it doesn't act when the environment around it is acidic. Matter of fact, it becomes helpless and lifeless. It's immovable. It becomes inert when the environment around it is acidic. Amylase is released in the mouth where it has to be alkaline, meaning that it's like watery, in other words. That's why you notice that your mouth ain't ate up from acid. So You can put a piece of bread in your mouth and you'll notice that the bread dissolves right there in your mouth. You don't even have to take it down. You can just leave it in your mouth and it just disintegrate, because the enzyme that breaks down starch and carbs is right there in your mouth. Now you can put a piece of meat in your mouth and there's not going to be no dissolving. There's not going to be no disintegration. The only time that a piece of meat gets stuck in your teeth and left there too long, then the body will send acids there and eat away at your gums and teeth to try to get that piece of meat out of your mouth. That's not a favorable situation. That adaptation is not favorable. It's necessary, but not normal. Right? All action of the body is necessary. It might not be the normal activity, but it's necessary. Under normal conditions, your body act healthy and act right. But when it's out of alignment or is being threatened to death or some type of defense system they have to defend itself against, then it's going to start acting abnormal. But it's necessary. Now, according to Dr. Shelton, it's going to sound a little scientific, but we're going to help explain it to you before it's all over. Chittenden showed that free hydrochloric acid to the extent of only 0.003% is sufficient to suspend the starch splitting action of ptyalin. Now, ptyalin is another name for amylase in the mouth. So ptyalin is just another name for amylase, which is the carbohydrate splitting enzyme. It breaks down carbohydrates. And it said that this guy, Chittenden, showed that just a little bit of hydrochloric acid, I mean just a little bit, 0.003, if it's present, it will stop the action of amylase. It'll stop digestion of carbs, rice, potatoes, noodles, all that stops if there's just a little bit of hydrochloric present. So in our stomach, if we pay attention to that, if we're eating bread and meat at the same time, how can meat and bread digest together if there are two different enzymes that is required for their digestion? And those two enzymes do not react properly together. The conditions of the stomach have to be set to either one, but it can't be set to both. But if we're eating both carbs and meat at the same time, one of those can't be digested. Either the bread is going to suck up the hydrochloric acid, or the hydrochloric acid is going to stop the digestion of amylase in breaking down the carbs. But both activities can't go on at the same time. Both the bread and the meat cannot be digested simultaneously. It's no way possible. It's like one require the AC to be on for it to act, and the other one require the heat to be at max for it to act. So if one required to be freezing cold and the other one required to be steaming hot, and you put both of them at the same time, then if you got the cold coming down and you got the heat coming down, now you got what? Neutral weather. It's not neither hot nor cold. It's lukewarm. And carbs do not digest in lukewarm. And proteins don't digest in lukewarm. So nothing gets digested when you eat the meat and bread together, or the meat and bread combination, or the protein starch combination. Now, I ain't just talking about bread. When you do your meat and rice, when you do your steak and potato, when you do your pizza, your lasagna, any of your tacos, your hamburgers, your hot dogs, all these so-called combinations of proteinish food or meats, protein, and carbs and starches. There's no way that those things can digest properly. So if we look at the standard American diet that we have today, we notice that um, that our combinations of foods are out of alignment with health. And so we're suffering out of ignorance, because who's teaching us this? If we look at the dietitian's model of eating, we see that they have a piece of meat here. Or, they got this food house now. It used to be, well, no, this is the food plate. They used to have the pyramid. And this pyramid had you eating 10 different structures of different food at one time. There's no way the digestive tract can deal with all these different combinations of food stuff and digest them properly, when each one of those foods require a different strength of juice, a different time in the digestive tract. So, how is it possible to eat in that manner? And that's why a lot of us, we're still suffering. That's why new diseases appear with this health mentality that is being mass produced out into the world. Now they got this food plate, and all of it is still not properly allowing food to digest, that it can be used. Just because we're eating food don't mean that it's being used. When food is not properly broke down, they become a source of toxins. They become a source of poison. If the food is not breaking down into proper carbohydrates, it ferments and rots. Rotted food can't be used for tissue repair. Rotted food, fermented food cannot be used to regenerate energy into the body. It can't build muscle tone and anything like that. Rotted meat can't do so. Rotted proteins, denatured proteins, can't properly build the body firmly. So yeah, you may look like you swole and stuff like that, but your body is breaking down from within, and eventually, you know, your whole organism be destroyed. It's a compensation. You might be, building muscle, but the rest of your body is compensated on and having to struggle. Your heart end up failing. Your other organs and vital organs are being destroyed, but you got big muscle, you know, from this excess of so-called eating all this protein. And we even see it in that ketosis thing, where everybody on this keto and Atkins, or not everybody, those who are being told to lose weight on the keto diet, or the Atkins diet, a high fat, high protein diet. And a lot of that still, none of these diets are properly combined in the first beginning. Now it tends to try to make a combination because you got the Atkins diet taking out carbs out of the diet. So you'll be eating, uh, you know, uh, you say protein and vegetables, but you won't be eating the carb and protein. So it has a form of you'll say combining, but it's teaching you to overconsume protein. That's a whole nother story in itself. And your body will go into a state of ketosis. Now, some people think that's favorable. That's not where you want to be at. That's not what you want to allow your body to be in. How can ketosis be ideal or favorable, or even people are excited about it, even talking about it? Why is it even on mainstream talk, health talk, when it's actually a disease in the medical field? If a diabetic allow their body to go in ketosis, they say that that's unfavorable. That person breaks down, wither away, and die. So why is it that we feel that we want to actually put ourselves in a disease state just to lose a couple of pounds, just to lose weight? That is the ignorance of the medical mentality that's being pushed on mankind, where we're going to be suffering from liver damage. We're going to be suffering from digestive cancers and different things, all because we're over consuming proteins and fats that are taxing our digestive tract and taxing our liver. You know, nutrition is not even just food alone. We eat properly. We that can be great. We can sit here and eat food properly. And this is what most of these topics was about, is to properly consume foods in the right manner and not allow our body to adapt to unnatural ways, even though it's necessary. But nutrition is not just food alone. And we've been teaching this at Natural as F, our show, which is every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We're here live right now. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to leave them down there. Our producer will make it known where we can answer them. Make sure that you tune in every Tuesday and share it with people. We hope that our information is so powerful enough to make you want to become more aware of what it takes to be healthier. We can get the majority of the people changing the way that they look at health, changing the way they think about health, changing the way they feel about health. We can get a momentum of health into our world. But long as we are void of understanding, void of the true knowledge of what it takes to be healthy and not seeking it, then we're going to consciously be in the dark. We're going to consciously keep suffering through ignorance. But we look at even our show and many shows, because there's many people teaching healthy ways of life. We look at that as light. It's a light in a world of darkness. You make sure that you hold on to this light and help this light, extend further and further out until we can get the whole world lit up with health. We want health to become the rule. And nutrition is not just food. Let's not just get stuck on what we're eating. Let's make sure that we start breathing properly, fresh air, clean up our air quality. Like we said in the beginning, get exercise, stay away from toxic people, keep the will to live, get rest and sleep. Make sure that we exercise and move this body. We got to move this body every so often. Daily would be ideal, and get plenty of rest. Stay away from toxic drinks and drink only clean, pure distilled water. Eat only foods that are suitable for, to be eaten, and then eat those foods in the right combination. And eat those foods in the right combination when you're in a state of balance. Food digests more properly when there's energy to digest that food. But if all your energy is, dealing with stress, then there can be no digestion. The stomach is suspended when digestion is, digestion is suspended when stress is prevalent in the life. So make sure that we're in a stress-free state when we're consuming our foods in the right combination. Let's get sunlight. All the 10 ways of health that you keep hearing us talk about here on Natural as F, make sure you follow us, where we can pound that information in your head. The more you listen to us and hear us, it'll have you thinking and feeling as we think and feel, and it's going to create that momentum into your life. Keep coming. They say in church, the first day you might not be all the way consumed, but you keep coming to church, and eventually the word is going to convict your heart. You keep coming to Natural as F every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And we hope and pray that our words convict your heart to live in such a way where you no longer have to ever worry about sickness. I claim it on your life today. I claim your healing through the word of hearing and awakening and becoming aware of how to properly live daily in your life, that you may never know what sickness is, that you who are sick may repair yourself back to full function and power and live healthy and free the way that it's supposed to be. Best of health and happiness from Savannah Natural Health. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. We love you and we thank you.
this. I like 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 this. Like this. I like this.